Hey, Will, how's it going?
Hey Scott, I'm good. How you doing?
I'm all right, thank you very much. Yeah, busy week with the festival. It's busy times,
Yeah,
but it's nice to be back out with people.
absolutely. Yeah. Back in the real world.
Yeah, congratulations on the series.
Thanks, mate.
I was just talking to Danny and said, as a Brit, I'm shocked at how little I knew about it, like of this situation. I knew a little bit, and then when I've seen the show and obviously with the book, my eyes have just been opened. And I wondered whether that was the same for you, or whether because you've done some projects in the US, you might have known a little bit more going into it than maybe me knowing shockingly little.
Listen, man, I think my experience, probably aligns pretty closely with yours before I came into contact with Dopesick. And I think that's because on top of what's being described as sort of one of the crimes of the century, there was also a pretty devastatingly impressive PR cover up as well from the Sacklers and Purdue. And in the process, I think their wealth has afforded them the kind of level of protection that no criminals should really be afforded. So yeah, it doesn't sort of surprise me to hear you didn't know much about it. I didn't, and when I read Beth Macy's book, Dopesick, I really kind of had my hair blown back. Just how massive, widespread, and deep rooted the issue of opioid addiction was. And Danny's script only brought more light to it and really made me want to be a part of lending my voice to the story.
And how was it for you playing? Because obviously you're playing a sales rep. I think it's okay to say that in terms of. Are you, because Danny was saying that he's obviously got an amalgamation of lots of people into different characters. I wondered how you went about playing this one, because obviously the sales reps initially are trying to do their job and sell the product, but as they go and meet the doctors and all that kind of stuff, it kind of becomes clear. So were there people you were able to call on or speak to kind of get a sense of what they were going through when all this was going on around them?
Yeah, so my character is also a kind of an amalgamation or a composite, as you say. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to speak directly to any kind of former Purdue employees, and the reasons for that are multifaceted. The main one being that many of them were kind of intimidated into silence or threatened with legal action after leaving the company. And in fact, it's something that's detailed in the series, but you see employees that left under kind of less than amicable kind of circumstances be sort of treated to kind of like mob-like tactics where they had people show up at their homes, they had things posted through their letterbox, they had legal threats made at them, people waiting in unmarked cars outside their places of work. So that all contributed to, I think, less people being available than you might hope. From a research perspective, still Danny got to speak to some former Purdue employees, and that really, I think, enriched the writing and certainly kind of how my character was ultimately represented. So I was very grateful that the script was just so well researched, and that if I had any questions or I needed any additional information about how Purdue operated, I mean, Danny basically has a PhD in it at this point. So
yeah, and I mean, it's testament to how important a lot of you guys in the cast want to portray this story, given that there's so many fantastic actors on board this project. I can imagine for a lot of you it was important for you to want to tell the story in the right way, and as you say, with Danny's writing and the way that he has approached this must be, it proves just to the weight of the material that you've all wanted to get involved and help tell the story.
Right. Yeah. I think everyone sort of recognized kind of the sense of responsibility in doing justice to what, Danny had kind of poured his heart into for the last sort of 2 years prior to us shooting, and, almost 3 years now. And, I feel like while I didn't know all that much about it going in, as soon as you learn the facts and as soon as the information, and you see how kind of blatant, this is as a sort of story of social injustice, you can't help but feel compelled to sort of want to do something. And I hope audiences will be moved in the same way. If nothing else, I hope that people will just protect themselves against this kind of, this kind of drug. Because, Oxycontin is still being prescribed and at a pretty alarming rate. It's also still taking lives. So, on top of that, I also hope people kind of extend, empathy towards people who suffer with addiction. Because along the way, Purdue preyed on this narrative that, somehow the victims were to blame and that they were the real abusers. And the only people who've been abusive in this entire scenario are Purdue and the Sacklers.
Yeah. It's a very, very serious subject matter. I have to say, though, I did laugh when you said that Batman was a breast man. I thought that was a nice little moment.
Oh, I didn't even think about it in that term.
But moment of levity.
But yeah. That was probably, I'm probably not even clever enough for that to have not gone over my head.
Yeah. Just before you go, I have to wish you congratulations. You've been in the news this week. You are Adam Warlock, which is such a big deal in the Marvel universe. You've done some amazing projects. So what's lured you to, well, you can't say anything, I'm sure. What's lured you to kind of do that? Are you kind of at that point in your career now where you're happy to maybe step into something a little bit bigger than stuff you've done before?
Yeah, it does feel like a step up in lots of regards. And I can't say much, but I am really, really grateful. I think the Guardians of the Galaxy is a especially, creative and unique franchise within the Marvel universe. And I'm very fortunate to have been kind of, welcomed into that world. So yeah, looking forward to getting to work and, doing the character justice if I can.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you in your blonde locks. I think everyone would be
Thanks,
fantastic. We're always lovely to talk to you, mate, and good luck with the show.
Cheers, man. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey,